This week is a very exciting one because I've officially been in business for 5 years now. 5 years ago this week, I signed my very first client way back in 2020. And I'm gonna walk you through today what those 5 years have looked like, what I would do the same if I could go back in time and speak to my younger self, and what things I would never do again. What are some of my regrets over those 5 years so you can avoid those pitfalls as well. This week is officially 5 years in business for me. 5 years ago, I signed my very first client for my very first offer, which at the time was a single intensive that I started putting out after I'd been growing for a few months with my audience. I put out these single intensives. I had 2 people sign up. I think it was priced somewhere around $100 or something like that. So that was my very, very first sale. And that happened 5 years ago this week. And it is incredible just looking back at, firstly, the amount of incredible women that I've worked with in those 5 years. If you are one of those people watching this, I'm sending you so much love and I'm so grateful to just have you as part of this journey and part of this business and part of this community. And also there were so many things I did that I can look back on now and say, I really shouldn't have done this in this way. I really wish I hadn't fallen into this trap or started building in this way. And I want to talk through those things in particular today. So what were some of the things that I really am grateful that I did? Some of the really positives that really set me up for success. And also on the flip side, what were some of those things that if I could go back, I wouldn't have necessarily done it that way. And it kind of wasted time and energy for me more than anything else. And it is so funny to me really looking back because you can see that obviously I started with those single one-to-one intensives. Then I launched my full one-to-one program. I think it was maybe about 3 or so months later, started signing clients inside that. And that is the same one-to-one program that I've kept for basically the entire life of my business. And I think it's really interesting looking back at that was one of the first things I started with. And that is still my core offer to this day. And 95% of my business has been built around that. And that is one of the things that I'm really glad that I did do, is pick one offer and really build around that, because this program has built a reputation. This program has had over 100 clients inside of it. It has become my business, basically, is this program. And yes, I can add other things. Yes, I can sprinkle in other things, but this builds such a foundation. And I think this is one of the biggest things where I'm so grateful I did that. And also there were points where I kind of strayed from this a little bit, but I always pulled back to this. For example, I had so many different mentors, coaches inside different programs where they were obviously talking about building out an offer suite and launching a group program, launching a mastermind. And I remember I went through a phase about 9 months into my business where I decided, right, I'm gonna launch all the things, I'm gonna have all the different programs. So I launched a group program, which only ran for 2 rounds before I decided actually one-to-one was the area I needed to focus on. I launched a course as well. I was just constantly launching new things. And that was the point when my business actually got really busy, because before this, my business had been really simple. It had just been the one-to-one 6-month program and one-to-one intensives. Then I started adding in all these offers and suddenly I got really, really busy and I just had so much on my plate. I was constantly in a launch cycle, constantly preparing content for when the doors were opening, urgency content when the doors were closing. All of those things were just constantly going on. It was taking so much time and energy, and I was kind of spending the majority of my time marketing than actually working with clients, which was not what I wanted to start the business for in the first place. So one of the things I'm really grateful for over these 5 years that I really did right and would do again, absolutely, is really pull back to that core offer. Because yes, I went through that phase of, dropping the course, the group program, all of these things, did a second round of the group program as well, then really realized that, I'm spending so much time just to maintain all of these different things. I'm trying to balance so many different areas and so many different offers and do them all really well that it's taking so much of my time and energy. And actually, one-to-one, that can be my whole business, can be built around this one offer. And I really pulled back to that, and I have done that every single year since. Yes, I've dropped in some other small things, but I've never let anything take that prime position. I have picked my one signature offer and I have built a reputation for that. And I chose this offer before I started building a reputation for it, before it was successful. I decided that one-to-one was going to be the thing that I was going to go all in on. I didn't wait until, I had 10 clients inside this program to actually decide that this was going to be the program I wanted to build my business around. I was really intentional in picking this from the start. And that is one thing I have done really well through these years, is actually build up a real reputation around one offer. And I think it's so easy, especially with just shiny object syndrome and kind of seeing all of these different things we could be doing, all that advice of you should add a group offer, you should add this. of actually pulling back and really getting clear on what is your one thing you want to be known for and build a reputation for is such a strategic move in business, because everyone knows me for my one-to-one program. They know the results it gets. They can see the huge page of testimonials. They can see all of these pieces, and they've seen me promoting this for literally years. This feels like a really solid program because it's a solid program, because I decided 5 years ago that it was going to be a really solid program. And I decided to really put all my energy and attention into making this. And that is one thing which I would go back and tell myself, actually, you don't even need to, try these group programs, try these courses, try all these different things. You can put even more energy just into that one-to-one program. Decide that this is going to be your thing and run with that. And I think that's something we don't give ourselves permission to do a lot, is just pick what we actually want to be selling, what we actually want to be doing, and just do that thing. We think we need the whole offer suite and we need to complicate things, when actually it can be really, really simple. The second thing I would do the same if I could go back and start these 5 years in business all over again is really prioritizing depth and relationship building with my people and with my community. This is something which obviously, yes, especially does work with a one-to-one model and especially is important there. But I think just generally, to be honest, and I think we're really seeing that as we're going into the later bit of 2025 and going into 2026, of actually, it's not necessarily the information that's winning, it's really the relationships and it's really the trust. That's the thing which people are missing at the moment in a world of ChatGPT, AI, all of those things. The trust has never been more important, and actually putting time and energy into those relationships has been such a game changer for me. And for me, that is one of the things, alongside having the single one-to-one offer and building a reputation around that, which has kept my income really consistent, because I have clients right now working with me who we literally started working together, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they have stayed with me inside my program for years. And that's kind of a little bit almost unheard of in the online space. It's so normal for people to be, jumping between different programs. I'll do 6 months inside this one, then 6 months in a mastermind, then I'm going to go work with this person. And it's really easy for people to just jump across programs. But actually building that longevity with relationships and focusing on this above anything else has been huge for me. And it's meant that actually I don't need to get a whole load of new clients. For example, last year with my one-to-one program, I only took on 2 new clients, 2 brand new clients. That was it. I had a few older clients come back to work with me again, but other than that, it was just re-signs. That was it. And that was my whole business. I only needed to make 2 new sales in the year. That was it. And I would say, to be honest, for any single service-based business, I think that depth really beats volume all the time. I think so often we're focused on, okay, how can I get as much reach on Instagram as possible? How can I get new followers? How can I grow my audience? And actually focusing instead on how can I have a better relationship with everyone who is already inside my audience is such a game changer. One of my clients, for example, and I know I shared this story previously here, one of my one-to-one clients, for example, with an audience of literally about 100 people. That is it. Total number of followers across all platforms. She signed 3 new one-to-one clients, which was 6K for her in just 1 month. With a tiny, tiny audience. Most people would look at that audience and say, I need to grow my audience. I need more people in my space. She signed 3 brand new one-to-one clients, which was a total of 6K for her, just from that tiny audience. So again, the depth really is beating everything nowadays and building those relationships. One really tiny, but also really big way that I always love to do this is sending Christmas cards, literally handwritten ones, to my clients each year. And this is something which is so small, but it's something no one does. Like, when was the last time you received a handwritten Christmas card from anyone that wasn't your grandma? Probably a while ago. And I think it's just really nice to actually just take those few hours that it takes for me to go buy the Christmas cards, write everyone's Christmas cards, do the addresses, send them all off. It takes a few hours, yes, but the return on that is unbelievable, because it's just an extra level of just that relationship building, to a point as well where most people will not go. Like, most people they're following are not going to send them a handwritten Christmas card. So those extra layers are so important, and it's something I love being able to do. And the third thing that I could do again, if I would go back to the start of these 5 years in business, is really build my business around my lifestyle. And I think this is a huge thing, which most of my clients will come to me because they haven't really done this. And I talk a lot about building a lifestyle business, aka a business which is built around the life you actually want to have. It's built so that it does align with the life you actually want to be living, not competing with it. And this is something which so often we don't do in business. We are really so focused on the income goals or on growth for the sake of growth. And we try and build up a business which gets to a point where we don't actually really want to be running it, or it's taking so much of our time. For example, one of my one-to-one clients from a couple of years ago, she was working 6-day weeks just to maintain her business. And she still was not at the point where she wanted to be. She was just below the 6-figure mark, and she was working every single Saturday pretty much just to maintain her business. We reworked a lot of what she was doing inside her business and got her down to a 4-day work week so she could not be working Saturdays anymore. And also she was able to take Fridays off as well. She was only working Monday to Thursday, and she was able to cross the 6-figure mark. And this is really the way that people need to be building their businesses, is thinking about the lifestyle you actually want to live. What do you actually want from the business, and building around this? Because yes, it's really easy to say, I want to, have a 6-figure business at all costs and just work your ass off to get there and work the 6-day weeks. But then so many of my clients will come to me because they have built their business that way. And they're then suddenly looking at everything going, okay, the money's great, but I don't know how to restructure everything in a way that allows me to still be making this much, still be serving clients in this way, and also not be needing to work these hours. That is a tricky point to get to. And if you can build it from the start with the lifestyle in mind, that makes it so much easier to grow as well. It makes it so easy for you to take on clients because you have that spaciousness as you are on the way up. It's not a squeeze trying to get any growth out of you, especially when you're a solopreneur, especially when you're the only one in the business. It can be so tricky trying to find that extra time when you are already feeling like you are the bottleneck because there is so much on your calendar and on your schedule. So me, for example, I always knew I wanted to travel. Even when I started my business, I was 21, 22 when I started my business, and I was literally working from my parents' garden shed, and I was literally in there. I remember so many evenings that it would be, working till 11 p.m. On my laptop, and it'd be dark outside, and I'd have the heater next to me because it was winter and it was freezing cold, and the heater didn't work that well, so I would still need the winter jacket on as I'm working because obviously it was outside in a shed. And through those nights, I remember I had that vision of I wanted to be able to travel with my business. So I always built my business intentionally with a lot of flexibility. I decided from the very start, my clients were going to have 3 calls with me a month instead of every single week. So I would always have that flexible week for if I wanted to go somewhere and travel, if I wanted a flight on a freaking Wednesday, I would be able to do that. And I really just curated my calendar, my offers, how I was running my business to allow for that. So then actually, when a few months later, I decided, you know what, I'm going to book a trip. We're going to go abroad. And I booked a 1-month trip to the Canary Islands to live and work there for a whole month. I booked another month in Sicily as well, in Italy. And I was able to do that very seamlessly. Nothing shifted in my business, nothing changed. I was still signing clients. I was still serving my clients. My income was still the same. It actually grew by going abroad as well. And I was able to do all that because I built with the lifestyle in mind. I had that lifestyle in mind before I actually created my offers, before I put everything into place. So it was really easy for me to be able to travel for literally the last 3 or 4 years now and pretty much be taking a flight every single 2 weeks it is on average, I think. I'm flying again tomorrow. I flew last week. I'm flying again Saturday and again Sunday as well. So lots and lots of flights, and be able to travel that much just because I've built my business in this way, and this has been able to be a consistent and sustainable thing for me. And then the 4th thing that I would do again if I could rewind and start those 5 years in business from day one is I would focus on building more sales pathways instead of building more offers. This is one thing that I'm so glad I did because it has kept my business so streamlined and so ridiculously simple. My business can be run really simply because there's not much weight to it. There's not much heaviness. I haven't focused on building out more offers. I focused on more sales pathways, aka ways that people can come into my core offer, which is my one-to-one coaching. That has been my focus for the last few years, and it's meant that even last summer when I was super sick, I had hospital appointments every single week, I was able to keep my business running and nothing actually dropped and nothing fell away. I was still serving my clients, but I was on, maintenance mode for everything else. And you wouldn't have even known I was sick. And I was working 10-hour weeks at that point because I was just doing the bare minimum, and I was able to get everything done in my business in those 10 hours. And that is because I haven't bulked it up with all these launches, this big intense calendar. I haven't launched so many different offers and have 5 offers at once. Instead, I have my one offer, but I've built multiple sales pathways for ways people can come into there. So again, I'm not reliant on one thing. I'm not reliant on me doing a webinar or a masterclass, for example, and that is the only way that I can sign one-to-one clients. I'm not reliant on that, which meant that when I was sick and I wasn't able to do those, that was completely fine because I had all these other sales pathways mapped out for how I was actually going to be signing clients. And this is honestly the easiest way to scale your business. This is the simple route. This is the cheat code right here, is we think scaling is having so many different offers and I need so many different tiers, I need all these different things. Yes, that can be a path for sure. And also for most of you, the lifestyle that you want to be living, the way you want your business to feel, how big you want it to be, how heavy you want it to feel, probably doesn't align with that. What you can do instead is have that one signature offer, build a real reputation around that because that is the thing you're known for, and then have so many different sales pathways leading into that you consistently get clients and it's really easy for people to come into that space. That is the model that I have followed through every season of my business, through my granddad passing away and a heavy season of grief, through being sick for a whole summer and pulling back to 10-hour weeks. This is what has kept my business afloat through all of those times and kept it growing as well because I followed a model which is just so freaking simple. And those are the things which have got me to where I am today, 5 years into business, all of these client stories, and having taken literally one offer to the multiple 6-figure mark. So those are the things that I would do again if I could go back. Now let's look at the opposite side of some of the regrets, some of the things that I would never do again if I could go back and if I could speak to my younger self. These are the things that I would warn her off of. And these are some of the routes which I went down for a little bit and which I focused on for a little bit and then actually really realized that I needed to pull back from them. And I think these really all still apply today in this climate, in where we're at in the industry. So the first one of those, the first thing I would never ever do again is trying to build out a whole offer suite before one offer is fully booked. Again, I think this is a piece of advice we get so often. If you want your offer suite, we need a low ticket, we need a course, we need a group program, we need a mastermind, and we're gonna have your one-to-one as well. And I absolutely fell into this, as I said earlier, I really built out that full offer suite and I planned out this whole thing thinking that that was gonna be the way I was gonna scale my income. That was gonna be what was gonna take me to my biggest months in business. That was not true. So it literally the month that I burned all that down, I decided I was closing the group program, the course, I wasn't promoting it anymore. I wasn't gonna have anything low ticket. I was just focused on my high ticket one-to-one program. That was the first month that was a 9.6K cash month for me at age 22 in my very, very first year of business. And I don't think that was a coincidence that that happened the month that I did go all in on one-to-one, because I actually became known for something. I wasn't just anymore a generic coach who had the same old offer suite as everyone else and was just known for, she has this and she has this as well, and she does a little bit of this. I was actually known for one thing and I was able to really build a reputation around this. And this served me so well. And I think so often we fall into that trap of trying to do all the things. We're always trying to run before we can walk. And we're saying we need this big offer suite and we have all these different offers and we think it's going to be easier to sign clients into offers if we have all these tiers because it's accessible. There's something for everyone, right? But I think it's actually almost the opposite. We almost make it harder for ourselves because we are constantly launching. We constantly have a new offer we need to speak about. No one really gets to know what we're selling because it's so complicated, right? Like unless someone's obsessively following you, they're not going to know the 5 different offers you have and what each one is different for and why they should join one, who this one's for, what level this one's for. It just makes it really complicated for your audience. And I think really we are in an era of simplicity over everything else. Simplicity in relationship building is really the era I think we're going into in 2026. And you building out an offer suite versus building out one offer has such different results for you. And I think the reason why we sometimes look at the idea of one offer and building around this as this more tricky path, it looks like the more challenging option to be picking. The reason why it sometimes looks like that is simply because we will see this and say, okay, how am I going to get people inside this offer? And we're used to just talking about it in content and just having essentially one sales pathway. But actually, again, as I said, for the things that I would do again, building out sales pathways. That is all you need to do to make it easy to fill up that one offer. You can have multiple sales pathways. Some of them might involve a low ticket offer, but not having this focus on 20 different things and needing to have this full offer suite, I think is such a strategic move for your sanity, for keeping your business really simple and lightweight and really just flexible for your lifestyle as well. So you can really build around this. and also just building a reputation and becoming known for something. The second thing that I would never do again if I could go back in time and speak to my younger self 5 years ago is big launches. And I think we have all gone through this where we have planned out a big launch and it has been this, 4-month masterminded plan. We've decided that we're gonna have the pre-launch content, and then here's where the cart's gonna open, and then we're gonna be open for 2 weeks, and then the cart's gonna close, but then we're gonna have this bonus at the end. And we just mastermind this whole thing, and it becomes this crazily complicated thing where you have suddenly this huge list of, right, I need to write the sales page, I need to set the automations, I need to write all the emails that I'm going to be sending, I need to create all these posts, and everything is so specifically blocked that it means you're in kind of hustle mode for at least 2 months, really, as you're putting all this together, scheduling all the things out. And it means you have a really intensive 2 months in your business. And I think the reason why a lot of people will do this is because we don't really feel confident that we can sell without the launches. I had a couple of big launches through the years when I decided I was going to do the group program, when I decided I was first launching the calls, and I decided I was going to do a big launch for this. And really the advice that I was getting at the time, and kind of the only option I was really seeing, was that I was going to have to do this on repeat every single year. Of every single time I opened spaces for the group, every single time I was opening doors for this course or doing an offer, I would have to have this really big, intense launch. And I don't love that. It just doesn't fit well with the life that I want to live. It doesn't make my business simple. It makes things really complicated. It makes things really tricky. But again, I think we only do this because we only really see launching as the way to be signing clients, versus I have been trying out all of these other different sales pathways for literally years now and have been utilizing all of those to actually be bringing clients in. And spoiler, they actually work just as well, if not better, and you actually save a lot of time by doing those. And I think this is really the space we're getting into, of cutting back on these big launches and realizing it doesn't need to be such a big intensive launch as well. Like, they can be really simple. I would say this year for Black Friday, for example, I've done a launch-ish, but it's not been a big launch whatsoever. I put together a really simple page on literally the, not even sales page, but the actual payment checkout page, and just put a few lines there for the offer. I've just been posting about it, and I just have it in my calendar of I'm actively talking about it for these couple of weeks, but there's not a really hard, doors open, doors close, and I need to curate all these emails ahead of time. Like, I was writing them on the day, and that's totally fine. And I think we're really pulling back from these really big intensive launches and going into more of a season of evergreen sales. And I think this is where the sales pathways really come in, of having ways people can actually come in without needing those big launches. So that is one thing I would cut back on, is these really big intensive launches. And then the third thing that I would never ever do again if I was to go back in time to 5 years ago is spend over half my time on marketing. And I think this is a really tricky one because marketing kind of never ends. There's always something you can do. There's always the extra story you could post, the extra Instagram feed post, the extra video you could record. There's always something on the list. It's never done, right? Versus something like client work, for example, you have clear expectations of what the work is. You have a clear done point where you can tick this off and it has been completed. Versus something like marketing, it's endless. It just never really ends. So for me, actually having a really clear plan in place over the last few years for what my marketing looks like has been such a game changer there, because before it was really easy for me to spend endless time, because I know that the more I do market, the easier it is to sign clients, right? So it's almost in my interest to spend as much time as possible on this, but actually this was not what I was needing at all. I was needing to get really focused with where my marketing time and energy was going, not just spend unlimited amounts on that. And especially during the first couple of years of my business, I was trying to be all the places. I posted on TikTok as well for a little bit. I was doing YouTube shorts. Like, I thought I just needed to post everything everywhere. And actually, I think really, again, coming back to simplicity, posting in less places, but focusing on better content has served me so well, because you don't need to be all up in your audience faces 20,000 times a day. Actually, you just being more intentional with your content is more strategic than saying, I just need to throw something out every single day on 5 different platforms and it just be mediocre content, just be okay, and it doesn't really communicate my message. Actually getting strategic with what your messaging is and making sure you're communicating that as best as you can in each piece of content is actually a really strategic move there. So there you have it. Those are the things that I would do again if I could go back in time to my younger self 5 years ago when I started this business, and also the things that I would never ever do again and would really advise against, and just what I would do instead of those things. So happy 5 years in business. I cannot believe we are here. It's absolutely crazy. I'll probably do something in December to celebrate some kind of sale, offer, something like that. But thank you so much for being there. If you are still here right now at the end of this video watching this, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you and just appreciate you being in this community, whether you found my videos a week ago, whether you've been here for the whole of these 5 years. I would love to know in the comments when you first found this channel and how long you have been watching my content and just been in my space. Again, I'm so grateful for you. Make sure you subscribe so you do not miss the new videos every single Sunday now, and make sure you like this video if you want more reflections on things I would do, things I wouldn't do, especially as we go into 2026 and we're really seeing marketing change as well. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one, and cheers to the next 5 years.